A judge sentenced Parkland gunman Nikolas Cruz to life in prison without parole on Wednesday, after 2 days of testimony from the victims and their families. Circuit Judge Elizabeth Scherer sentenced Cruz to 34 life terms for the 17 killed and 17 injured in the 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Scheer's final sentence comes after a jury last month recommended a life sentence for Cruz, opting against the death penalty. CVS Walgreens agreed to the. Okay, that's some article. Cruz's sentencing spanned 2 days as the victims and the families and friends of the slain gave impact statements and spoke directly to the gunman, calling Cruz everything from pure evil to a remorseless monster in the often angry testimony. "Your notoriety is over today," said Linda Beagle Schulman, the mother of slain teacher Scott Beagle. "You will no longer be anything but a number here, and I can tell you, I have never uttered your name, and I never will. You are nobody now," Sam Fuentes, who was injured in the shooting, said to Cruz on Wednesday. "You are not special. You have no longer the power anymore. You will step away from this, and you will have the most unremarkable, pathetic existence." I was expecting this article to be a little bit longer. So I guess it should go without saying that the 34 life sentences were meant to symbolize the 17 people that were killed and the 17 that were injured. And this is a ruling I completely support. I think that when you have these individuals who go around and do crazy stuff like this that causes these large numbers of casualties, they should receive some type of stiff punishment. And actually, you can make the case that life sentence is even worse than the death penalty, because from what I've understood about his incarceration, apparently nobody can send him a letter, like any of those groupies or whatever. So whatever people think about him, and we have enough sick people in American society to actually have some people that like this, he can't hear it. He is not aware of it at all. He will be sitting in this facility for the rest of his life, with no idea as to what things are being said about him, and with seemingly no updates, given that he can't go anywhere and has no chances of ever getting out. I do want to go over the statements that were made here. Where the mother of the slain teacher says, "You will no longer be anything but a number here, and I can tell you I have never uttered your name and never will." I wish more people took that same position with a lot of these shooters, because I don't know, it just seems like from a societal level, a lot of people, like, you're encouraged by society to remember the victims, you know, memorial for those that passed in this truly gruesome way. But if you look at all of these mass shootings, and I'm not justifying people thinking this way, but it seems like every time one of them happens, the only person that gets remembered and talked about and discussed is the shooter. Now, Stoneman might be an interesting subversion of that, because David Hogg and the various other Sandy Hook families and survivors who have gained a little bit of prominence since this happened. But for the most part, it, like, with all these different shootings, you remember sometimes the location and the perpetrator, and that's pretty much it. And I just think that's so sad, and it must really hurt for um, you know a parent to have to confront their child's killer. I don't even want to imagine how I would feel. Um, so he had Fuentes, and he said, "You are not special. You have no longer the power anymore. You will step away from this, and you will have the most unremarkable, pathetic existence." So when he mentions him not being special and not having power, you always have to remember that a lot of these killers do feel strong because they have weapons and tools that can instantly take someone's life away. And when he's had all of those removed from him, it is very telling to say you don't have any power anymore, because all of his power came from a bunch of weapons that he's never going to touch again. So I just find their statements very accurate, and I think that these cases go on a little bit too long. Again, I know that legal proceedings can take years, but that was 4 years ago, and we're just now getting this life sentence. I mean, it took a month after the jury recommended for us to even get to this point. To where when I saw his picture, because like when the shooting happened, he had like a like a little short hair or whatever, like cut to the sides. I almost didn't even recognize him, just because of how much time had passed, and the fact that a lot of times when this stuff happens, you see the perpetrator's image, and if they survive, you don't really see them in anything outside of maybe some like you hear like some news story, but it's usually there's no picture attached to it. So I was just surprised by just how different he looked in my view. But I remembered it's been almost half a decade. So, oh man, these things never get any easier. But he is pure evil. You oftentimes hear about, and again, I'm not justifying this in any way, but you hear about stuff like Columbine, Virginia Tech, where the shooter was bullied and messed with. There's a video of Cruz that he recorded on his own phone talking about that he was going to be this shooter and all these people were going to. So this was clearly something that he planned on doing just for the little fame and notoriety that comes from being an absolute disgusting piece of garbage. And there really is nothing redemptive about him whatsoever. He's just a complete, I mean, as they said earlier, a monster who continues a long trend of gun violence in the U.S. that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. Or if it does go away, it won't be for another, I don't know, century from how long it's been happening. Just a sad story. Like the families having to come up there. The fact that it even happened in the first place. Just all of it is bad.